impactful comment on social media, and it said third world import, third world problems. So what would your advice be towards people who want to make a real estate investment and who are waiting to make their first investment, to all the beginners out there? What are 3 things that you can list out to look for in the ideal real estate property that you want to purchase?
And the property value is 1 million. That 200,000 is like technically your profit because you bought something for cheaper, right?
There is no ideal real estate property in the market.
I'm not saying there's no ideal.
Why do you decide on buying a Tesla, number 1? And number 2 is why Model Y? Why not S or X or 3?
My Model 3 was giving me a lot more range anxiety than I'd like to admit. Like there was times when I'd be traveling from one place to another and I'm thinking, oh shoot, would I have enough to get back?
Did you hear the GTA 6 release that's going to come out soon?
They said new GTA, but did they say GTA 6? They said new trailer, right?
Yeah, the new trailer of GTA 6.
Is it for GTA 6?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you listen to the third US presidential debate? And that's the reason, we are doing this podcast as well. It's not for money. It's not to make 8-figure to 9-figure brand deals. That's not the intention. The intention is to provide value to the people and also create that personal brand along the way.
One of the most important things is to have a network that you can trust, that you can go to for genuine advice, not people that say, okay, yes, and whatever to you just because you want to hear it, or those that push you down. No, you want genuine people who have a sense of what they're talking about and who have the best intention for you.
If you're watching this podcast and you have a similar mindset, a go-getter mindset, never give up mindset, reach out to us and it would be a pleasure to connect with you.
Failure is part of what we do. So just keep going. That's the only way forward.
Hello, welcome to Podcast with SDK. I am Shivank, better known as SDK. I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur since 2017. I started drop shipping when a lot of you hadn't even heard of it. I started multiple stores on Shopify and eBay and scaled them to $250,000 or more in revenue single-handedly. And that's how I started off my journey. And in this podcast, number 3, we will be speaking with a very special guest. I truly believe he can add a lot of value to all of you in terms of the cultural difference in Canada and also the real estate investments, where on giving some valuable advice there, and also life in general. And that's why I think he'll be the perfect guest for our podcast number 3. And it's a pleasure to introduce everyone to Abhilash Kavuru. Welcome to podcast number 3 with SDK.
Hey, Shivank. Thank you for having me. And thanks for the introduction. So my name is Abhilash. You guys can call me Abby. And so I'm a business strategist and I work in the nuclear industry, but I'm also an entrepreneur like Shivank. And I just completed my MMAI which is a master's in management of artificial intelligence. So I'm looking to blend my history together with nuclear and AI and try to start some new ventures going forward. So that's a little intro about me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Abhilash has also been an alumni of University of Waterloo.
Yeah, so I started off in Waterloo. I was doing my bachelor's in Waterloo for a few years with biochem, but I didn't finish my undergrad in Waterloo. I transferred over to York, and so York at the time, I don't know if anything's changed now, but at the time they had chemistry and biology separately. They don't have a combined degree as a biochem like Waterloo did. So I was kind of forced to pick one, and chemistry gave me more credits, which means I didn't have to redo as many courses as bio. So I picked chemistry, and that's how I have my undergrad in chemistry now.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And then you later went on to Queen's, right? For master's?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I just recently graduated from Queen's in September. So it's been a bit of a gap since my undergrad, but I'm glad I had the time to go explore the world a little bit and experience the industry, and then come back to school for maybe second and maybe the final time. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow, congratulations first of all on that massive achievement. It's not every day that you graduate from Queens, is it? And I do want to get into how beneficial it is to get a master's in this modern age when a lot of the young kids these days think that dropping off is cool since they try to mimic Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, and think about dropping off. So I really want to talk about that. So how about we just talk about how valuable masters really is in this modern day?
I do have another story to tell you because this isn't my first master's. So my first master's was actually when I did my undergrad in chemistry. I graduated and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And in science, it's pretty much you keep moving. Like you have to go to the next level. You get your master's and then you get your PhD usually if you want to stay in academia, right? So, but in science, master's is nowadays like you can't really do too much with just the bachelor's. So pretty much everyone I know was going to get their master's, and I was part of that group. So I started my master's in chemistry. I did 1 year, and then I realized this just wasn't for me. I was looking at the market. I was looking at the job opportunities. I was looking at the potential career path and the growth. And like I said, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I wanted to pursue that more than the academia. So I actually dropped out of my first master's. And tell you the truth, it was the best decision I made. Like I don't regret it. And if I were to go back, I'd do it over and over again. It's just so in a sense, like there is a value to the degree, which is why I just recently went back and got it. But it also comes with the purpose you're looking for. For me, like getting a master's for the sake of master's is, I feel like it's a waste of time and money. And like most importantly, you're missing out on another opportunity that could lead you somewhere else, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm, hmm.
yeah, like I'm not going to say my path to where I am today is perfect. I had a lot of setbacks and restarts and lag that like looking back, but it's those experiences that kind of helped me understand things a little bit differently now.
The first one, where were you doing it initially?
That was York University. So
Okay.
I did my undergrad, and then I was familiar with the faculty. I knew the professors. I knew the labs and the research going on. So I applied, and I got selected for. I got selected into analytical chemistry and biochemistry, and I pursued biochemistry. So my first one was a research-based master's.
Okay. And you did mention that you were always entrepreneurial in nature. When did you first discover that you were entrepreneurial in nature?
I would say so. It's kind of interesting because I feel like there's a natural quality that people have within themselves, but then there's also
Mhm.
the environmental factors, like the nature versus nurture thing, right?
Mhm.
So naturally, like within me, I always wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, like kind of put my own ideas to action, get my own kind of path. But externally, like living in a Desi household, like Indian household, I was always told to like go pursue this, go pursue that, go be a doctor, right? So I was always kind of pushed towards that kind of like the sciences and the I mean, of course, like I kind of like the subjects too, but at the time, like I was too young to decide, so I was just kind of thrown into it, and I was kind of pushed to pursue the like getting into med school. um, so because of that pursuit, I didn't focus on the entrepreneurial side of it. But then I guess I was truly freed, like mentally and like emotionally freed when I decided, like, I made the decision to say, look, no, med school is not it for me, and this master's is not it for me. I'm going to go do my own thing. And I feel like since then, that's like when my true journey started.
And when was that? Was that after graduating?
That was after my undergrad and during my first
Okay.
year of my first master's, because I started pursuing like a tutoring business at that time. There was another friend that I was working with. He wanted to do some tutoring companies, and I'm like, you know what, let's give this a shot. So the both of
Mhm.
us set it up, and we were moderately successful. Like it wasn't like a huge like money maker, but we built it from ground up, and we got it to a certain level where we had like I think 10 employees under us, and we had like clients that are in across the GTA, different places, but it was just too demanding in terms of time, and the we weren't profitable yet because like all of our revenue was just going back into reinvestment and like paying the tutors, getting marketing and merchandising and all that stuff, right? Um, we didn't make too much money in terms of profits. We were making revenue, but like not cash flow positive. And yeah, and then I decided to leave that after a certain point to go pursue something else in the nuclear field when I got that opportunity.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, entrepreneur is all about starting multiple, taking the opportunities,
Mhm.
taking multiple different opportunities and figuring out which one is
Yeah,
which one works, right? I mean, that's what
yeah,
it's about.
and you never know which one. Like it's a risk and reward thing, right? Like
Hmm.
along my journey, like I've had multiple small businesses. Like there was a point where right before COVID, I bought a vending machine, and then COVID happened, and of course, like that business went down the drain because no one came and bought anything. Um, um,
Vending machine. Oh my God, I've seen a lot of this online. The
yeah,
vending machine
right.
business.
So I got caught into the hype, did my research, and like
Uh-huh.
I kind of like went down this rabbit hole of like research for like 2 weeks, and I
Hmm.
finally made up my mind, went and bought it, and I'm not even kidding you, 3 days after I took possession, the
Hmm.
facility where I have the machine closed down because they're like, because of COVID they're going to lockdown, and they told everyone to go home. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh
wow.
man, my luck. So I kind of waited it out. I waited it out till the restart when people started
Uh-huh.
going back, and the foot traffic never reached the level it was at pre-COVID.
Uh-huh.
So it
Uh-huh.
never made any money, and it was taking up too much of my time to go and restock and like kind of maintain it. And at that point, I just sold it.
Yeah, this absolutely reminds me of the four key essential elements in a successful business or a startup, which I've written a blog on this as well. It's available at shivangdk.com. The four key elements, one of them is timing. And like you mentioned, 3 days prior, you bought the vending machine and then the COVID hit. It's timing is really important, and sometimes it's out of your control, unfortunately. But yeah, that's how the game works.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, moving on, I would like to. I want to talk about our backgrounds a little bit to our audience who may not be aware. I was born in Ottawa, raised in Bangalore, India,
Mhm.
and right now I live in Montreal, Canada. But most of my formidable years have been in India, and I am still very much closely. I relate very much closely to the Indian culture and the Indian ways. My mentality, everything is like an Indian. So I am an Indian and a Canadian citizen,
Mhm.
and that gives me different perspectives, on the same thing. But Abhilash, you were raised in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And born in Canada as well?
No, I was born in India. I came here in when I was about 8.5. So,
Okay.
but I've been here for like the last 20 years.
Okay. Okay. And um, and how's your mindset towards things, and how's your have you been to India? Have you traveled in the last 20 years, or have do you visit India?
Yeah, yeah. I still have a lot of family there, so I do go back. It's kind of interesting because at the beginning, when I first came to Canada, like there's I mean, to be honest, out of all the places to immigrate to, Toronto is probably one of the most welcoming and um, friendly in terms of having someone to accept you once you get there, because there's like this city is made of immigrants. Like this whole GTA is like, you look around, like you see the demographic. And I don't know if it's like getting there in Montreal, but GTA is pretty much all immigrant run. And it's been like this for a while, right? So you don't feel like you're too far apart, like other than the winter and the cold, which I don't think I'll ever get used to. But you don't feel like it's a different world entirely, right? So in that sense, like my transition here wasn't that bad. But at the beginning, there was definitely like, because like my schooling was mostly in Canada, like my before Canada, like I was too young, don't remember much, and like my conscious thoughts were like formed after like that
Okay.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like whitewashed at the beginning. So for sure, like until like middle school and even till maybe like grade 9, grade 10, like, I wasn't too in touch with the Indian culture. I wasn't too like, obviously at home, we still did everything like the culturally, like we practiced like, my mom's very religious. She does all the prayers and we celebrate all the festivals and stuff, but like it never like connected with me. But then when I went back to India during high school, I got to experience like the culture for the first time in a way that I understood it with all the people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there for a bunch of events, and it was just like amazing to me because we don't have anything remotely close to that here, and that's when I started getting back into it, and so kind of like you, I'm back in touch with it now, and I feel like it's a big part of me now.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
And many times people ask, your relatives when you're young, a lot of people ask, mostly relatives and also friends, when you have this influence from two countries, which one do you like more or which one do you prefer, India or Canada?
Um,
And for me personally, I think India is more conservative. There's a God-fearing society, and um, there is good morals and values where anyone that's brought up there, it's more dominant there. And in Canada, on the other hand, has great nature. You wouldn't find this kind of nature, this beauty anywhere else. So each country has its own pros and cons. um, yeah. Have you ever been asked that question?
um, to be honest, if I were to, okay, so I think a lot of my experience has been with um like I only go back to visit like once, like 1 month every few years. Like maybe I've been there like 4 or 5 times now. It's only so like my experience has been limited in that sense. So I haven't
Okay.
like I would say I did, like if you were to ask me if I'm Indian or Canadian more, I'd probably say I'm more Canadian. Um
Mm-hmm.
I do see some of the differences though. Like I do notice the um like the religious side of it, as you say, because like we do celebrate things here, but not to the extreme that we see in India, right? And it's not just the religion, but like also the customs that come with it, like the rules and the restrictions and all that stuff. So it is definitely more liberal here.
Okay. And as young Canadian citizens, both of us,
Mm,
it becomes our duty and responsibility to think of Canada's future. So, where do you
mhm.
think Canada's headed towards? Is it declining, or do you think it's getting better every day? In regards to the wokeism, the
Mhm.
LGBTQ culture, inflation. What do you think?
Um, to be honest, I think we have bigger problems than wokeism and LGBTQ, because
Like,
like just look at our economy in general. Like over the last few years, I do think it's worsening. Like the state of our country in terms of quality of life people are experiencing, like not just new people, but the people that have even been here for a while. I don't think anyone can look back and say, yeah, like things are better now than 5 years ago, right? It's tough right now. It's it's interesting because a lot of the people see a picture of Canada in the news and in media in a certain way, but then like the person personally, when I speak to them, especially when they come here, they
mhm.
realize it's not as as rainbows and butterflies as they make it out to be. Like it's kind of hard, and especially for new students coming in. Like there's so much going on that we don't hear, but like their stories when you hear them. Like for me personally, like I start looking at it and thinking like, damn, like is this like really our society, right? Like there were situations where there was a student that came in and her college has a fixed amount of fees per semester, but suddenly they sent an email to everybody saying, hey, you know what, we know we said this, but all of a sudden it's 2,000 more, pay it or leave. And where's she gonna go, right? Where, like, what, she's stuck in Canada, she has no family here, she has no friends here, she's new, she came here for education, so she's forced to pay, right? And then our rent is ridiculous, like our housing issues there. So we have a lot of, I think, it's good and bad. Like we need people to grow, and that's why like we're a very immigrant welcoming community in the country. We need because like when people come in, they contribute to the economy, they open businesses, they create jobs, they start, going through the economic cycle.
Yeah,
But at the
that's
same
that's the
time,
positive side
yeah,
of influx of immigrants, but
yeah,
there is also a lot of negative sides as well. I
yeah,
I read this really impactful comment on social media, and it said third world import, third world problems,
hmm,
and that really stuck in my mind.
hmm,
And you can sometimes feel that as well, through social media.
yeah,
You know where I'm getting towards, like,
yeah, yeah. I
people
see.
from third world getting into Canada, into the
Right,
directly into the first world, because Canada is considered a rich, developed first world country, right?
right.
Yeah,
Right, and that's the point, right? The point is like the all the good things that come with immigration and like bringing immigrants in, but the country has to be equipped to handle that. It has to be, the infrastructure has to be there, the culture has to be there, and basically the country has to be set to
hmm.
receive that immigration. But I don't think we are. That's where the problem is. I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm. Okay, let's not get too deep into immigration,
yeah,
because that's not something we'll talk about.
yeah,
But like you said, housing markets, it's insanely overpriced. All the houses, a lot of people have mentioned it to me, that don't make real estate investments right now. It's
okay,
overpriced. Um, and before we move towards the real estate investment sides and the housing market,
hmm,
I want to know your stance on the wokeism and LGBTQ culture.
oh,
I know you did mention that there are bigger problems, but
yeah,
I see this as a bigger threat to the everyday lives, even for younger generation at the moment, because they are being forced into something they necessarily don't want to get into. I'm sure you have heard of it in Vancouver and BC and various parts of Canada that are enforcing this. So what are your thoughts on the LGBTQ culture?
I have no particular problems with any LGBTQ members. Like
Mhm.
so I think we're looking at two different problems, right? Like the first is like the people that what they believe in and how they feel and whatever, and then there's a political side of it where
Mhm.
they're taking those feelings and kind of politically pushing that agenda onto other
Yeah,
people.
that's well
Yeah,
said.
yeah, I think that's the real problem, right? So,
That's
uh,
the real problem. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, so I think we need to definitely draw the line where it has to be like we need to respect the people for their beliefs and their sort of way of life, but at the same time we shouldn't be like pushing this agenda that's going everywhere. Like when you talk about wokeism, like if you think about it, who are the people that are like woke, right, quote unquote woke? It's people like literally have no life experience, like they literally just graduated school or they're still in school and they have no life experience. They're like 20, like I don't even know if they're 20, and they're going off of what they see on social media, and they're going off of like political targeted news and whatever, and carrying that forward, right? And like when I look at that, I'm thinking like they don't understand the world, they don't know how it works, but they are trying to speak their mind and kind of tell other people what to think and act. And when I look at that, I'm just like, where's yeah, I definitely do think that's an issue.
Hmm. Yeah, that's well said. I I agree on the same thing. It's when they push this culture on the younger, impressionable minds.
Yeah,
Children under 18. It's definitely, that's when you're like, whoa, stop it. We don't want this. We don't want
yeah,
this on our children, and parents are not even part of the decision making process in some states. It's ridiculous. The stories we hear. Yeah. Well, moving on now, the real estate investment, the housing markets in Canada and the US, in North America in general. Right now, all the houses, I'm being told, are overpriced, and to hold your money until there's a crash and the market corrects itself.
yeah.
That's what I'm being told. I don't have much knowledge on this. So, would you like to share some thoughts? I know you have made a
Um,
first real estate investment of yours.
Yeah.
You have recently made a purchase. So would you like to share some thoughts?
So yeah, there's different ways to look at it, right? It's like that. The thing about the crash is we never know. Like, people make
Hmm.
predictions. Like, honestly, like if you look at the like news, some people say it's going to be good, some people say it's going to be bad. No one knows. No one knows the truth because
Hmm.
like what we can is we can infer truth, or like we can infer an understanding based on like the things we see, right? Like, for example, we're bringing in more people than we can house, so definitely there's a
Hmm.
demand for housing.
For
There's a
sure.
supply shortage, right? So just based on economic principles of supply and demand, like the housing is always going to be in demand until it catches up, which is going to take a long time.
Hmm.
um, but from the other side of it is the interest rates perspective, where the payments are getting too high because of the high interest rates. um, and that's the theoretical, like that's the thing people are saying is going to cope the crash, because people can't make their monthly payments. It's going to cause a bubble like the one we saw earlier in 2008, and cause bankruptcies and defaults, right? um, but if you look at it from a like overall perspective, and this is just my opinion, like I'm not providing like any real estate advice, but in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be a crash. Is because as long as someone's willing to pay for it, it's gonna like basically the market is how much is someone willing to pay for something, right? A house that's worth 1 million today suddenly becomes 1.3 tomorrow because someone wants to pay 1.3 for it, not because something changed that made it more valuable, right? Um, and that's just demand and supply. So, and I think we have a supply shortage. So as long as like our demand is always higher than our supply, I think the prices will be stable, or they'll keep climbing up a little, right? And the interest rates, we don't know if it's going to be a long term thing or a short term thing. But if the interest rates go down, that's even more motivation to buy now rather than later when the supply, or sorry, when the prices go a little bit higher because people can afford it more, right? So
Hmm.
so in my opinion, like I would think if you want to buy, I think it's a good time to buy.
Is that so? What would your advice be towards people who want to make a real estate investment and who are waiting to make their first investment, to all the beginners out there?
Um, I look at it as a numbers game, right? If you can make the monthly payment, like it's how much can you bear? Like what are you going to buy? What's the monthly payment? What can you afford? And like how much are you going to uh, like how much is your quality of life going to change based on that, right?
Hmm.
Because like it depends. Like, are you looking to move in, or is it an investment property? Because now is a great time for investment properties with the amount of people we have. The houses are like. I'll give you a real example that happened last week. A friend of mine bought a house, listed the house for rent, and within a day, it got rented. There was pretty much there was 4 bedrooms that he was
Uh-huh.
renting out, and
Okay.
there was about 20 people that came to see the place within one day.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's the state of the market. and
Not.
and yeah, like people are buying houses and renting it out, and they're making good money. They're making the house is paying for itself, and they're appreciating in their value. So it's all a numbers game. Can like how much is the rent coming in, how much is the mortgage and the maintenance and all that, and what's the cash flow? Is it positive, negative? If it's negative, can you afford the difference, right? And if those numbers make sense, I'd say buy it. Like, don't even think about waiting, just go for it.
Okay. And ideally, you want to have. Is your friend having like positive cash flow, or do you know about it? Ideally,
They're
you'd like to have the rent plus profit, so it covers it puts it in positive cash flow, right?
it's very hard to get houses that are positively cash flowing these days because of the high mortgage, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So like in this case, they have 4 bedrooms and they have a finished basement. So altogether, I think their house is positively cash flowing, um, because it's in a pretty good neighborhood, and they're they were able to secure a good mortgage rate as well. So like I think um, overall, I think, even to be honest, even if it's not positively cash flowing, let's just say you're losing money, like maybe 300-400 a month. You got to look at the long term gains, because the property value is going to rise. Like I'm talking about 20 years, right? Like it's going to rise by several thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, like for sure, right? So even if you're sucking up a $500 loss a month for, let's say, 20 years, the appreciation alone is going to outscale that. So if you can afford that
Mhm.
negative cash flow, like it's still a good investment.
It's like a startup burning through capital in
Yeah,
the first
pretty
few
much.
years. The
Yeah.
burn rate. Got it.
And then there's also things you can you can do to boost the property value, like, renovations, or you can just even like a makeover, like a repainting or whatever, because
Wow.
like I said, it's
Uh-huh.
people will pay what they think it's worth, right? So if a
Yeah.
freshly painted house is something that someone appreciates, then they might pay more
Mm.
for it, right? So
Mm. So what would be a good interest rate?
I don't know if there's like a number that's like we should target. Like it goes back to like the whole picture, right?
Mm.
Whatever the interest rate you're getting, can you afford it in terms of, are you able to make the payments? Are you able to, like, is it going to be an impact to everything else, or is it going to be a comfortable situation where, like I said, if you're renting it out, can you absorb that difference? All right. It doesn't matter what the interest rate is. Like, the only thing that
Mhm.
matters to you is how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and what's like the damage to you, right?
Okay. And how would you predict the increase in the value of the property 20 years from now? How would you make a more accurate prediction? And how would you justify the burn every month?
You can look at trends, but honestly, it's not like realistic to say it's gonna be around this ballpark number, because
Okay.
you never know what's gonna happen. Like, what
Mm,
if 2 years from now we get another COVID, right? And then the prices go up
mm,
again, right? Like, it doesn't, we don't
mm,
know. Or what if 2 years from now, maybe, I don't know, there's a chemical leak, and then the whole area is now inhabitable, so all the prices go down, right? So we
mm,
don't know what, like, but you can look at the projections. It's going to appreciate over time, because even if the crash happens, they rebound. So you just have to. It's a waiting game at that point. You hold until it rebounds, and the prices catch up again to what the market, right?
mhm. So you look at the historical data and make an approximate prediction that it would be X amount of dollars 20 years from now or 30 years from now, and you try to add it
Yeah.
up with the
You
monthly
can
payment.
make projections, but like I wouldn't put like too much stake in how accurate those projections are going to be. Because the other part that people are going to fall into the trap of is they think it's just going to be a linear, like, curve, or sorry, like a appreciation where it's just going to keep going up and up and up and up, right? But there is going to be a plateau at certain points.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
each commodity is going to plateau at one level or another level, right? So maybe, like, it goes up really fast by 300,000, and then just stays there for the next 10 years, where it's not really going up too much, right?
Okay, okay. Well, two last questions before we conclude the real estate investment part. Number one is what is the ideal, I would say, what is the typical interest rate? Like, what would be a figure, a ballpark figure? Would it be 7%? Would it be 9%?
Right now, to be honest, it's been a while since I bought my property, but I think right now, like, it's around 7. It depends on the bank, but like, the range is usually from like 6.7 to 7.3. I've seen recently, like, even so, like, I've seen some at 7.5.
Sorry?
Yeah, I've seen some at 7.5, and like, some. So I've seen some as low as 6.2 ish, and some as high as like 7.5 or almost 8.
Okay, so somewhere around 6.2 to 8%, that would be the
Yeah,
interest rate in today's market.
it depends on the
My,
bank, but like, honestly,
oh,
like, I'm not too familiar with the current interest rate right now.
okay, okay. And of course, your credit score, you got to have at least
Yeah,
700, or you got to have at least 700 or 750 credit score. I always keep checking that on my banking app. I go there, I check my credit score and make sure it's at the top 2% or top 3%. So very important for everyone watching out to look into your credit score. If you don't know, just head over to your banking application and you'll find it. Make sure you are using your credit card and paying all the dues on time, which is very important. I think the most relatable part would be student loans, where you
Mhm.
can make on time monthly payments and boost your credit score there. So that would be
I think the biggest thing is don't miss a payment,
biggest.
because missing a payment is worse than anything else you could do. The system is not your friend if you miss a payment.
Yeah, building a credit score takes years, and if you miss a few payments, it's
Even
going to
one,
take
if you
a
miss
few
one
months.
payment, it stays on
Uh-huh.
your record for 7 years. So
Wow,
yeah,
7 years.
even if it's like, let's just say you pay a bill 12 times, like once a month, and you've been paying it for 10 years, and you missed one payment, right? That doesn't matter. That one payment is going to do more damage to you than that 10 years of good.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's part of the reason why like some of the newcomers have a lower score, because they don't understand that missing a payment is a very, very serious issue here. Um, I think you do get a grace period where if you miss a payment, you have to recover within like a few days and make the payment within a few days. But if you miss a payment, like it's going to stick on for 7 years, and it's going to get you, like you said, it's going to affect your credit score, which affects your mortgage, your cars, your car loans, your everything that you need in terms of loans.
Yeah. So make sure you have a good credit score. I wouldn't say good, I would say excellent. Have an excellent credit score. And the last question before we conclude the real estate part is what are three things that you can list out to look for in the ideal real estate property that you want to purchase? Are there any key structural aspects that you should look into the property, or any key details? Could you share that?
So you can, again, once again, it depends on what you're looking for. If it's your first home, or like or house you want to live in, versus like an investment property.
Let's say it's an investment for renting out.
Right.
And what would be like the top three things on your mind?
I would say, so there's a lot of people that do an offer where so there's a conditional offer and a non-conditional offer usually, and that means like a conditional offer is where you show intent that you want to buy a house, and you do your inspections and get all your reports, and then if the reports come out good, then you proceed with the purchase of the house. And if there's something you find in the reports that you don't like, you can back out and there's no penalty. Whereas an unconditional offer is just a blind saying, I'm buying it, I take it, and we don't do inspections, or even if we do inspections and we find something, it's my problem to fix. It's not your problem anymore, right? So a lot of people were doing unconditional offers at a point because of the competition in the marketplace. Like there's 4 or 5 buyers for one house, and in order to secure the house, they're saying, you know what, we'll take it no matter what the problems are. We'll just take it.
Wow.
And yeah, in my opinion, I don't think that's a smart move, because maybe 8 out of 10 times you're fine, you're okay, nothing happens, or something minor and it's easy to fix. But 2 out of 10 times you'll find a big problem, like maybe a structural issue. I don't know, maybe you go into the basement, you realize there's termites that ate the wood, and now your entire house needs to be like reinforced or something like that, and that will cause significant delays, and like the cost can go really high really fast. And as an investor, that's not a risk you should you should look at taking on. So in my opinion, I would say don't do unconditional offers. Like always do your due diligence. Take your like the one thing is people might get into the fallacy of like limited resources in terms of like, if this opportunity goes, I'm never going to find another one. But that's not true. If you wait enough, like it's sometimes just a waiting game. Maybe you lost this opportunity, but there's another one around the corner. And sometimes, there are more than one. There's more than one property for sale, right? So there's definitely going to be options for you. So I would say don't do like anything crazy like unconditional offers, or significantly overpaying because you think the market's going to keep going up in a linear way or anything like that. I guess that's the primary thing. And so the first thing I kind of took one of those investor courses for real estate for a bit. Like it was just like an online course, and the first thing they teach you is like try to find money in the buy. Like if the property value you think is like 1 million, by looking at like comparables and everything, see if you can get it at 900,000, or see if you can get it at 800,000. Because if you buy at 800 and the property value is 1 million, that 200,000 is like technically your profit because you bought something for cheaper, right?
Okay.
Um, although those deals are very like rare, like from my experience, when I was shopping, I think I lost a few good deals because of that. Like I was looking for the money in the buy, and there were some good prices that I missed out on in terms of houses. Like it was prime location. I was going to get good rent money, and I was gonna, I think I was very close on buying one property, but because it felt like I wasn't making money in the buy, or it felt like I was paying like what the house was at market price or even a little bit above, I passed on it. And when I look back, I'm like, these are classroom theories. Like they don't work in real life, or not all the time, or not in this market, anyways. So I think looking at long term appreciation, it's a long term game, in my opinion. Like unless you're doing flips or something, investment is a long term game. If you're just doing the rentals.
So it is number one, have conditional offer. Number two, keep your emotions out of it, just like stock market. Number three would be
I guess number
long.
two is more like don't go for the ideal situation. Like, if you have like five things that you're trying to check off, like it's going to be super hard to find a property that matches 5 out of 5 in your like it's like a golden egg, right? It's like
Yeah.
a property in a good location, which is going to get you a great rent. It's going to appreciate. It looks in good condition. You don't have to put in too much work, and you're trying to make money in the buy. Like all 5 conditions being met is like very rare. So like sometimes you might have to
It's just
sacrifice on
like
one or two.
comparing the financial statements of a company while you're buying the stock shares.
Yeah.
And everything does not add up. There will be the cash flow might be a little lesser. There may not be free cash flow. There may not be a growth in the revenue every year. So I think that's what I can compare this to. You can't tick all of the boxes.
Exactly. Like sometimes
there
like
is
3 or
no
4
ideal
criteria match. Yeah.
There is no ideal model in the real world. They teach you in the classrooms, but it doesn't exist in the real world. So get as close. I think what you're saying is get as close to ticking as many boxes as you possibly can. And to summarize, again, number one is conditional offer. Number two is keep your emotions out of the game, just like stock market while buying shares. Number three is long-term gains. Focus on the long-term gains. And an additional bonus point or a tip for you would be there is no ideal real estate property in the market.
I'm not saying there's no ideal. Like it's like this. We in pursuit of the ideal case, you may be giving up on good or great opportunities, and sometimes like that's not worth it, right? Like like having a great, it's like a bird in the hand is two in the bush kind of thing. It's like where you have something good or great in your hand, but you leave it because you want that ideal situation.
Okay. All right. And moving on, we have been in the podcast for 42 minutes. I hope the audience are getting some value and some key takeaways from this. I wanna talk about perhaps the buying process of getting a Tesla. I think a lot of people would be interested in that. And I know Abhilash drives a Model Y. Why did you decide on buying a Tesla, number one? And number two is why Model Y? And why not S or X or 3?
Why Tesla? So I guess why Tesla is because it's, I don't know, it was a cool car on the block. It was electric, it's a new change in technology, and I like that. I like the challenging the norm kind of thing. But at the same time, I was also like always growing up, I was more eco-conscious and eco-friendly. So I like that it was a no gas pollution in the car. Although the overall economic and eco-friendliness of it is still a debate. like, from sourcing the material to disposing and recycling of it. But it makes me kind of, well, at least on perception wise, it looks like it's a good eco-friendly vehicle. And I also did like a lot of numbers actually. Like, so at the time, so I'll give you a little history about the Tesla Y. My first car was actually a Model 3. And then I had that for a year and I
I
sold it
remember you saying
because,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my first one was a Model 3.
Uh-huh.
But it was a standard range plus.
Mm-hmm.
So the range was like 400 to 420, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
kilometers. Um, and I also live in a condo, so I don't have a charger in my condo. I always have to charge outside. So
Mm-hmm.
my first winter with the Tesla in Canada, the winters, you know how they are, right? So there's a huge battery drain, battery efficiency loss because of the heating of the battery and everything. So I wasn't getting as much of a like my Model 3 was giving me a lot more range anxiety than I'd like to admit. Like there was times when I'd be traveling from one place to another and I'm thinking, oh shoot, would I have enough to get back? Right. Or I'd be like, turning off the heater in the middle of the like journey to like conserve a little bit of energy and then turning it back on when it got really cold, that kind of thing. And I just wasn't happy with that. I like the car. I love the performance, but I just wasn't like comfortable with it. Wasn't a comfortable situation at all times. So at that point, I was thinking I was going to sell it and buy something else. But then my friend had a Model Y, and I kind of took it for a few drives, and it felt a lot better. So I switched to. I said, let me give it another try, and that's how I got the Model Y long range. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy with this car. I've been pretty happy with this
So it was
since.
because of the range anxiety.
Yeah, like I mean, I've also got better at planning, and I've
Okay.
also got better at managing the range and like
Uh-huh.
driving more efficiently when I need to. And the
Mhm.
performance is fun. It's fun to drive. So
How do you
uh,
drive efficiently? I mean, the car handles efficiency, correct?
yeah, so efficient driving means things like your rate of acceleration and rate of braking. So Tesla's like they have regenerative braking, which
Hmm.
means you don't want to push the brake pedal. It gradually tries to recuperate some of your momentum back into energy to
Hmm.
help boost the battery life. Uh,
Hmm.
so leaving some room between cars, for example, that alone, where you're not forced to hit the brake pedal and you let the car regeneratively brake while it covers the gap,
Oh,
that adds range.
okay.
Going a certain speed on the highway, for example, like
Okay.
in the summer, like I go pretty fast compared to the winter because in the winter
We're
I'm
not
I'm
going to
more
disclose it here. We don't want a legal case on the podcast.
yeah. So yeah, in the winter I try to go as slowly or like as I can without impeding traffic, right? So it's things like that. That's like, and then the how hard you accelerate, and then it's kind of like what mode you're in the car. Those kind of things, they all kind of play a factor. And surprisingly, even something as small as like the size of your tire, like the how big your rims are and how much pressure is in the tire, all of these things, like every last percentage counts when you're going on trips. So it's
Oh,
like all of
wow.
these things play a factor.
But that's all factory, right? Rims and tires. It all comes standard from the factory. I don't think you can play with it.
No, you can upgrade your rims. Like my summers are 20-inch and my winters are 19-inch because the smaller the rims are, you get more range out of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
and same with the tire pressure. Like the lower the tire pressure, the lower your range actually decreases. Because like for example, in the summer, if my tire pressure is lower than like where it's supposed to be, the rubber gets a little bit more sticky to the
Hmm.
surface of the road, so it creates
Hmm.
more friction and it lowers
Hmm.
the efficiency of the car.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And you did mention a very key important point. I think this will be very useful to people who want a Tesla in Canada. The effect of Canadian winters on the
Mhm.
battery efficiency. You did mention it goes down at
Yeah,
the start of the winter
throughout the
by
entire winter.
throughout the
Yeah,
entire winter. So what is the
yeah.
efficiency of the battery? Is it at 80%?
No, it's so like I'll give you an example. A drive that normally takes me 10% in the summer
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
would take me maybe 15 to 17% in the winter sometimes.
10% in summer would take 15 to 17% in the winter.
Yeah, like anywhere from like 14 to 17, like somewhere around that range. Like it's like
Oh,
50% higher sometimes.
wow. Wow. Yeah, imagine if you're going for long drives. I think
Yeah.
it'll be
Like it's
challenging.
kind of it's very like to be honest, this kind of stuff like fascinates me, so I kind of like look into it a little bit. So like think about it this way, right? Um, the battery needs to stay at a certain temperature for your car to function. So like let's say I go to the store, right? So I need to start my car at my house, which means the battery heats up. I drive to the store and then I park at the store. The store is only 5 minutes away, but while I'm in the store, my battery's getting cool again because the weather is cold outside. So when I get back in to my car, now the car is heating up the battery again, and then I drive my so the car is heating up the battery to optimum level twice because it was cold, got hot, and then got cold again, and then got hot again to drive me back home, right? So that heating and cooling process is more energy efficient than the actual drive, or sorry, more energy demanding than the actual drive. So if you're going to multiple places in winter, like let's say you're going to like 4 or 5 small stops, you actually burn more energy than if you're going from like one place to another in one continuous drive.
Hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. The car requires a lot more heating during winters, which I mean
Yeah.
makes perfect sense at minus
Yeah.
30. Yeah.
I mean, you can precondition the car to like heat it well before you get into the car and everything, so it's ready to drive
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you get in. But
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have a charger at home, like for me, I don't have a charger in the condo.
Mm-hmm.
So every time that the heat and every time the car heats up, that's energy going to heat up the battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, like when you're in the car, you're heating with the actual like air conditioner, right? Like your heater's on, so
Mm-hmm.
that's also consuming.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Interesting.
I mean, to be honest, like I don't have a big problem with it in the GTA because we have chargers like in quite a few different places.
Everywhere.
Like no matter what part of the city I'm in, there's a charger somewhere nearby I can go to. Yeah, like here's an example. Like for me to come to Montreal in the summer, um, if I start at full charge in Toronto, I could probably make it to Montreal in one go, and maybe I charge as soon as I get to Montreal. Uh,
Oh, so it'll take 100% of the battery from Toronto to Montreal.
yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
might do like a quick charge in the middle somewhere to like make sure that I'm not at zero when I get to Montreal.
And
But
what
like
are the
maybe when I'm at
bills
20.
like? The electric bills? Is it cheaper than gasoline? Is it cheaper
Yeah,
than
much
petrol?
cheaper. Oh,
Petrol.
much cheaper. Yeah,
Is it?
yeah. Like,
Wow.
uh, a f- so I can give you some numbers because like my friend, like a few of my friends also have Tesla, so we compare numbers all the time. I'm in a condo, so like I said, like I charge outside, which is more expensive. But my friend has a home charger. He drove about 42,000 kilometers in the first year. And we did a comparison of how much it would have cost in his. So he has a Honda Civic and he has a Tesla Model 3. Uh, so we did a comparison of how much it would have cost in the Model 3 versus how much it would have cost in the Civic. Um, he would have paid almost, I think it was like 5 to 6 thousand more in gas for the 42,000 kilometers in the Civic versus the Tesla.
Hmm. $4,000 to $6,000 more.
Yeah, it was like 5 to 6 thousand. Yeah,
Okay. 5 to 6. Wow. Okay. Hmm. Yeah,
and you're
that's
also like the maintenance
here.
is like very low. So like
Okay.
other than changing my tires, I haven't serviced my car in any way since I got it.
And when did you get it?
The Model Y, it's been more than a year. It's been like
Oh,
13 months now, like 14
so you
months.
don't
Yeah.
have to service it every once a year, like they recommend it, right? For gasoline cars,
Well, I mean, for
gasoline.
gasoline cars, you have to like you get constant repairs, right? Like you got to change the oil. You got to maybe
Oh,
I don't know. Like you end up with a lot of issues. Like sometimes the spark plug goes out. Sometimes like there's some other mechanical issues, right?
wow. Yeah, it's insane when you think about it. Okay, it's totally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Awesome. Well, I want to move forward. We just have a few more minutes remaining until we conclude our wonderful podcast. Did you hear the GTA 6
Oh,
release that's going to come out soon?
they said new GTA, but did they say GTA 6? They said new trailer, right?
Yeah, the new trailer of GTA
Yeah.
6.
Is it for GTA 6?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
Did you
I
hear
don't
about
know,
it?
but I heard there was going to be a new GTA trailer. But yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know it was the GTA 6, but nice. To be honest, I haven't played GTA in a while. It's been a few years. Are
To
you
be
playing it
honest,
regularly?
no, I don't play GTA regularly. I used to play, and I have very fond memories of GTA Vice City. I used to play 10 years ago when I was in middle school, and yeah, that's what I associated with the nostalgic memories. And when I heard GTA 6, I wanted to ask if you were, you know, did you know about it? Yeah. Yeah, I want to conclude this podcast with one last topic. Did you listen to the third U.S. presidential debate?
If I'm being honest with you, I didn't listen to any of them. Not the first or
No.
the second or third. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the third one is absolutely crazy. It's,
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy. He's one of the candidates who's running for 2024 US presidential elections, and he absolutely nails all the other contestants in their coffins. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I would highly recommend you watching it.
I have a brief, I guess, like understanding of what everyone's platform is and where they stand. And to be honest, like I don't feel strongly about any of them, so I don't like I'm not following it that well. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
I don't know. I just don't feel like any of them are the best representations. So where do you stand? Who are you with? Are you with Vivek?
I am personally, I if I was an American, I would vote for Trump, and if Trump was not running, I would have voted for Vivek. So Vivek would be my number two choice. Yeah,
Why? Why are those choices?
it's because of the alignment in core values and the alignment in what they're selling
Hmm.
essentially. So they're selling a much more logical and more reasonable way to improve the country. And it may not affect you directly, but anything that happens in America will affect Canada and the rest of the
Yeah.
world. All the prices, oil prices, whatever it may be, it will affect Canada as well. So I think it's really important to just have a general awareness to our viewers. And if you haven't seen it, there'll be a link below to the third presidential debate by MSNBC. Yeah, coming back, why? It's because of the alignment of core values between myself, Trump, and also Vivek. When I say core values, I mean always speaking the truth, even though it may be hurtful to the other person. And we have similar values like putting the country first, society first, having a net positive effect in the society, which I spoke about in podcast number 1, uh, about the concept of producers and consumers and adding positive value to the society. Because I think majority of the people in their daily lives are just consumers. They consume all the products and services that are made by the minority, 2%, 3% of the world. And if you can try to be a producer, if you can try to be a creator and adding some net positive value into the society, that will be absolutely remarkable. And that's how the society goes from 0 to 1. Yeah, so that's why I support Vivek and Trump.
No, it's a interesting point about the consumers and producers, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you grew up mostly in India, right? And
correct.
then you came here recently. So, like, what was the change for you when you came? Like, when you came here, did you always know you wanted to be like on the producer side, like on the entrepreneur side, or was it something where after you came here, you saw an opportunity and you decided to pursue it?
That's an interesting question. Before I answer that question, I want to just talk about the entrepreneurial trigger when I had it, and I think that'll lead up to when I wanted to be a producer, because being an entrepreneur equals being a producer as well, because you're
Mhm.
creating value. And when I came here as an 18-year-old to University of Ottawa in
Mhm.
2016, after perhaps 2 semesters of studying in in the university, I wanted to become financially free, and that eventually drove me into the e-commerce space, selling products, and that eventually led me to drop shipping. Of course, there were many failed businesses in between, but it eventually led me to the successful ventures that are part of the business, and that's when I started thinking from a different perspective as a
Mhm.
producer, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to create this podcast as well, producing content. I think content creation will put you apart in your personal branding, and that will distinctly divide you from the mediocre people. When I say mediocre, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I just mean it in the most realistic sense. Think about that. When you enter a restaurant or a club, there are hundreds of guys like who look like you and me, right? So how would you have always had that unsated hunger, unquenched hunger, unquenched thirst
Mhm.
within me, that I need to be better. I need to be, when I enter a club or a restaurant, everyone should look at me and say, hey, that's SDK. I've seen his video. I have seen this. I have used his products or services.
Mhm.
You got to have that differentiating factor within your personal brand. And that's the reason, we are doing this podcast as well. It's not for money. It's not to make 8 figures to 9 figure brand deals. That's not the intention. The intention is to, provide value to the people and also create that personal brand along the way.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Like the branding side of it is very important, especially the social media presence and like the recognition, like you said, when you go into a place. Um, but at the same time, like what makes you keep going? Like you said, you have failed ventures, right? Like when you look at your failures, like what makes you look at it and say, you know what, that sucked, but I'm gonna get up and go do it again. Versus, hey, maybe this isn't for me, and I should like try something more safe and get a job or something like that. Like, um, you know, is it just solely your drive, or like what happens when you face that wall, or when you hit that like pothole or something? Like how do you rebound?
I you should have a level of self-awareness to truly understand if that opportunity or business is worth pursuing. That's number one. And if you truly think that's worth pursuing and it's profitable, I think I always do it. I mean, even in the smallest instances of my life, I've always gotten things, even though if I can't get it in a straight path, I will always create a path to get to the eventual goal. So
I'm glad you said that.
I've always been that man, that person who creates ways to get it done. I don't give up. I it's not part of my personality. It's not part
Right.
of my branding either. It's the personality that I possess is not part of it. So I don't know how to answer that, because I have a totally different frame of mind. I have a totally different mindset when it comes to getting things done. And when I hit that wall, I mean, I do feel sad. I do feel frustrated. I do feel the anxiety, when things don't work, when things don't go your way. But I don't express my emotions out. I believe in stoicism, and I follow stoic principles. And Yeah, I honestly, to be honest with you, I haven't cried since 10, I don't know, like since 10, 15 years since I was a kid. You won't see a tear in my eye, even if anything bad happens, anything crazy shit happens, you
Yeah.
won't see a tear in my eye. So I'm always, I try to be always at a balanced state, not too ecstatic, not too depressed. That's just who I am.
I
And
think you highlighted one of the most important characteristics, which is to understand that things go bad, things happen, things will go bad one point or
things will
another,
go
and
bad. Yeah.
yeah, like it's just how you react to it is the only thing that matters. It's like, yeah, it happened. So like, are you gonna cry about it? No, like, just figure out the next way to do it, right? And that's
Figure
that's the
out plan
entrepreneurial
B.
spirit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Figure out plan B, figure out plan C, go all the way to Z, and start over at double A, right? It's it's that. But at the same time, I would also caution, because sometimes you end up getting tunnel visioned and go down like a rabbit hole that you know, and in those situations, I would say one of the most important things is to have a network that you can trust, that you can go to for genuine advice, not people that say okay, yes, and whatever to you just because you want to hear it, or those that push you down. No, you want genuine people who have a sense of what they're talking about and who have the best intention for you. And
Mm,
those are typically, they turn out to be your advisors or your mentors, right? And
absolutely.
I think every entrepreneur and everyone in general needs to have at least one or two people that are in that position for them, because there'll be times when you're heading down the wrong path and you need an outside voice like that to say, like, you got to have someone to pull you back, and to realign and refocus your thoughts.
Mm.
So I agree in everything you said, but I also think that we need to have a council for ourselves that we respect and listen to.
I
And I think
100%
together,
agree.
exactly.
Because you're unable to see your own blind spots. It's very easy to
Yeah.
spot other person's blind spots, but you wouldn't be aware of your own. And Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, mentions about the same thing in his book. That's a fantastic point, to have a
Yeah.
council of trusted network around you, and and that's what's really hard to find. Fortunately, I have my father, have my sister, have my mother, have my brother-in-law, everyone who has the best interest interest for me,
Hmm.
but they don't share the same mindset. Unfortunately, they don't share
Hmm.
my kind of driven, relentless mindset. But yeah, and that's what we hope to accomplish through this podcast. If you're watching this podcast and you have a similar mindset, a go-getter mindset, never give up mindset, reach out to us and we will, it would be a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, I think we covered all topics, and we perhaps could have gone 10 minutes, 15 minutes over the limit.
Honestly, I feel like we just end up talking all night if we were given the opportunity. So
Exactly. It was such a pleasure talking to you, Abhilash, and I genuinely appreciate your time. I know time is extremely valuable to all of us. We all have limited time, and yeah, I couldn't be more humbled and more grateful to spending your 1 hour 7 minutes with me. Thank you.
thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk, and I hope your podcast and those that are watching experience as much success as you can get. And like we mentioned, failure is part of what we do. So just keep going. That's the only way forward.
What a way to close this podcast. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it, and we hope you got some valuable insights from the podcast. Until next time, take care. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will have all the social media links below in the description. Abhilash's Instagram will be in the description, or his website, or LinkedIn, any way to contact him, and myself as well. So thank you and take care.